Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you've had a good week. Today we are continuing in 1 Kings with chapters 17, 18, and 19, and this begins the third section, if you will. It is headed The Stories of the Prophets. All right, chapter 17. Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, during these years there shall be no dew or rain except at my word." The Lord then said to Elijah, "Leave here, go east and hide in the Wadi Cherith, east of the Jordan. You shall drink of the stream, and I have commanded ravens to feed you there." So he left and did as the Lord had commanded. He went and remained by the Wadi Cherith, east of the Jordan. Ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the stream. After some time, however, the brook ran dry, because no rain had fallen in the land. So the Lord said to him, "Move on to Zarephath of Sidon and stay there. I have designated a widow there to provide for you." He left and went to Zarephath. As he arrived at the entrance of the city, a widow was gathering sticks there. He called out to her, "Please bring me a small cupful of water to drink." She left to get it, and he called out after her, "Please bring along a bit of bread." "As the Lord your God lives," she answered, "I have nothing baked. There's only a handful of flour in my jar and a little oil in my jug. Just now I was collecting a couple of sticks to go in and prepare something for myself and my son. When we have eaten it, we shall die." "Do not be afraid," Elijah said to her. "Go and do as you propose, but first make me a little cake and bring it to me. Then you can prepare something for yourself and your son. For the Lord, the God of Israel, says, 'The jar of flour shall not go empty, nor the jug of oil run dry, until the day when the Lord sends rain upon the earth.'" She left and did as Elijah had said. She was able to eat for a year, and he and her son as well. The jar of flour did not go empty, nor the jug of oil run dry, as the Lord had foretold through Elijah. Sometime later, the son of the mistress of the house fell sick, and his sickness grew more severe until he stopped breathing. So she said to Elijah, "Why have you done this to me, O man of God? Have you come to me to call attention to my guilt and kill my son?" "Give me your son," Elijah said to her. Taking him from her lap, he carried him to the upper room where he was staying and laid him on his own bed. He called out to the Lord, "O Lord my God, will you afflict even the widow with whom I am staying by killing her son?" Then he stretched himself out upon the child 3 times and called out to the Lord, "O Lord my God, let the life breath return to the body of this child." The Lord heard the prayer of Elijah. The life breath returned to the child's body, and he revived. Taking the child, Elijah brought him down into the house from the upper room and gave him to his mother. "See," Elijah said to her, "your son is alive." "Now indeed I know that you are a man of God," the woman replied to Elijah. "The word of the Lord comes truly from your mouth." Chapter 18. Long afterward, in the 3rd year, the Lord spoke to Elijah. "Go present yourself to Ahab," he said, "that I may send rain upon the earth." So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine in Samaria was bitter, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his vizier, who was a zealous follower of the Lord. When Jezebel was murdering the prophets of the Lord, Obadiah took 100 prophets, hid them away, 50 each, in 2 caves, and supplied them with food and drink. Ahab said to Obadiah, "Come, let us go through the land to all sources of water and to all the streams. We may find grass and save the horses and mules, so that we shall not have to slaughter any of the beasts." Dividing the land to explore between them, Ahab went one way by himself, Obadiah another way by himself. As Obadiah was on his way, Elijah met him. Recognizing him, Obadiah fell prostrate and asked, "Is it you, my lord Elijah?" "Yes," he answered. "Go tell your master, Elijah is here." But Obadiah said, "What sin have I committed that you are handing me over to Ahab to have me killed? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my master has not sent in search of you." When they replied, "He is not here," he made each kingdom and each nation swear that they could not find you. And now you say, "Go tell your master Elijah is here"? After I leave you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you to some place I do not know. And when I go to inform Ahab, and he does not find you, he will kill me. Your servant has revered the Lord from his youth. Have you not been told, my lord, that I did what I did when Jezebel was murdering the prophets of the Lord? that I hid 100 of the prophets of the Lord, 50 each in 2 caves, and supplied them with food and drink? And now you say, go tell your master Elijah is here. He will kill me. Elijah answered, as the Lord of hosts lives, whom I serve, I will present myself to him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and informed him. Ahab came to meet Elijah, and when he saw Elijah, said to him, is it you, the disturber of Israel? It is not I who disturb Israel, he answered, but you and your family, by forsaking the commands of the Lord and following the Baals. Now summon all Israel to me on Mount Carmel, as well as the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Ashtaroth who eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent all the Israelites and had the prophets assemble on Mount Carmel. Elijah appealed to all the people and said, how long will you straddle this issue? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal, follow him. The people, however, did not answer him. So Elijah said to the people, I am the only surviving prophet of the Lord, and there are 450 prophets of Baal. Give us 2 young bulls. Let them choose one, cut it to pieces, and place it on the wood, but start no fire. I shall prepare the other and place it on the wood, but shall start no fire. You shall call on your gods, and I will call on the Lord. The God who answers with fire is God. All the people answered, agreed. Elijah then said to the prophets of Baal, choose 1 young bull and prepare it first, for there are more of you. Call upon your gods, but do not start the fire. Taking the young bull that was turned over to them, they prepared it and called on Baal from morning to noon, saying, answer us, Baal, but there was no sound and no one answering. And they hopped around the altar they had prepared. When it was noon, Elijah taunted them, call louder, for he is a god and may be meditating, or may have retired, or may be on a journey. Perhaps he is asleep and must be wakened. They called out louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until blood gushed over them. Noon passed, and they remained in a prophetic state until the time for offering sacrifice. But there was not a sound. No one answered, and no one was listening. Then Elijah said to all the people, come here to me. When they had done so, he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been destroyed. He took 12 stones for the number of tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the Lord had said, your name shall be Israel. He built an altar in honor of the Lord with the stones, and made a trench around the altar large enough for 2 seahs of grain. When he had arranged the wood, he cut up the young bull and laid it on the wood. Fill 4 jars with water, he said, and pour it over the holocaust and over the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a 3rd time, he said, and they did it a 3rd time. The water flowed around the altar, and the trench was filled with the water. At the time for offering sacrifice, the prophet Elijah came forward and said, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are the God of Israel. You are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things by your command. Answer me, Lord. Answer me, that this people may know that you, Lord, are God, and that you have brought them back to their senses. The Lord's fire came down and consumed the holocaust, wood, stones, and dust, and it lapped up the water in the trench. Seeing this, all the people fell prostrate and said, the Lord is God. The Lord is God. Then Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal, let none of them escape. They were seized, and Elijah had them brought down to the brook Kishon, and there he slit their throats. Elijah then said to Ahab, go up, eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink, while Elijah climbed to the top of Carmel, crouched down to the earth, and put his head between his knees. Climb up and look out to see, he directed his servant, who went up and looked, but reported, there is nothing. 7 times he said, go look again. And the 7th time the youth reported, there is a cloud as small as a man's hand rising from the sea. Elijah said, go and say to Ahab, harness up and leave the mountain before the rain stops you. In a trice the sky grew dark with clouds and wind, and a heavy rain fell. Ahab mounted his chariot and made for Jezreel. But the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, who girded up his clothing and ran before Ahab as far as the approaches to Jezreel. And chapter 19. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and he had put all the prophets to the sword. Jezebel then sent a messenger to Elijah and said, may the gods do thus and so to me, if by this time tomorrow I have not done with your life what was done to each of them. Elijah was afraid and fled for his life, going to Beersheba of Judah. He left his servant there and went a day's journey into the desert until he came to a broom tree and sat beneath it. He prayed for death. "This is enough, O Lord. Take my life, for I am no better than my father's." He lay down and fell asleep under the broom tree. But then an angel touched him and ordered him to get up and eat. He looked, and there at his head was a hearth cake and a jug of water. After he ate and drank, he lay down again. But the angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and ordered, "Get up and eat, else the journey will be too long for you." He got up, ate and drank. Then, strengthened by that food, he walked 40 days and 40 nights to the mountain of God, Horeb. There he came to a cave where he took shelter. But the word of the Lord came to him. "Why are you here, Elijah?" He answered, "I have been most zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. But the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to the sword. I alone am left, and they seek to take my life." Then the Lord said, "Go outside and stand on the mountain before the Lord. The Lord will be passing by." A strong and heavy wind was rending the mountains and crushing rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire there was a tiny whispering sound. When he heard this, Elijah hid his face in his cloak and went and stood at the entrance of the cave. A voice said to him, "Elijah, why are you here?" He replied, "I have been most zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, but the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to the sword. I alone am left, and they seek to take my life." "Go, take the road back to the desert near Damascus," the Lord said to him. "When you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael as king of Aram. Then you shall anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as king of Israel, and Elisha, son of Shaphat of Abel Mahola, as prophet to succeed you. If anyone escapes the sword of Hazael, Jehu will kill him. If he escapes the sword of Jehu, Elisha will kill him. Yet I will leave 7,000 men in Israel, all those who have not knelt to Baal or kissed him." Elijah set out and came upon Elisha, son of Shaphat, as he was plowing with 12 yokes of oxen. He was following the 12th. Elijah went over to him and threw his cloak over him. Elisha left the oxen, ran after Elijah, and said, "Please let me kiss my father and mother goodbye, and I will follow you." "Go back," Elijah answered. "Have I done anything to you?" Elisha left him, taking the yoke of oxen, slaughtered them. He used the plowing equipment for fuel to boil their flesh and gave it to his people to eat. Then he left and followed Elijah as his attendant. That's where we're going to end today. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. There'll be more from the prophets later. There's a whole section of the Bible, just the prophets. And so we'll start to see what they were, what the Lord was saying through them, hundreds, thousands of years ago, foretelling what would happen when Jesus was born and things like that. But here we are just hearing from Elijah, and we'll see what else we hear from him next week. It's a little 13 and a half minutes. Yeah, a little short today, but that's a good stopping point. Anyway, I hope you have a good rest of your week, and let us go ahead and say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. All right, like I said, have a great week. I hope you are enjoying your Christmas preparations, not getting too bogged down in it. I know it can be a hectic time. I've been busy. Everyone's busy this time of year. But just make a point always to, in the middle of the chaos, stop and remember what this season is, what Advent is, what we're preparing for. It's not about the presents. It's not about the cookies. It's about the birth of Jesus. So just always keep that in your mind while you're, again, in the midst of the hustle and bustle and all that. All right. I will see you next Sunday. Have a great week. Bye-bye.